burp.
Yeah.
Oh, that was you, not
My
me.
bad. Screaming Idiot Show rolls the fuck on.
What's up, y'all?
Got another bonus content episode for our very loyal Patreon subscribers. Y'all know who you are. We appreciate the shit out of you guys for giving us your time, your money, and your attention. So, by the time this comes out, the topics that we're going to cover today will have been out for a week or so. But we really wanted to dive into specifically these two bands that have released new music because they're two of our favorites. One is mine and Preston's absolute favorite. So, Monuments and Polaris. So,
Yummy.
we're going to start with...
I'm bussing.
I'm busting out the seams.
Here we go.
We're going to start with Monuments, okay? Their new song, Nefarious, came out the same day that Polaris dropped their single.
Bad job out of them.
We'll get to that.
Yep.
Same day Polaris dropped their new single, Inhumane, off their upcoming album,
Fatalism.
Fatalism. That's how
Yep.
you pronounce that. Yeah, that's coming out in September. So I don't think Monuments has announced a new album yet, but I think they're, we talk about the momentum curve. Monuments does a very good job of staying on top of that momentum curve, where we had actually talked about.
Especially with Andy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We had. Andy's got so many side projects going. I don't know how he has time to do all this stuff with
Well, if
Monuments,
you
which is his
remember-
main group. But
Yeah, and if you remember, before they dropped In Stasis, they put like 3 random singles out when they introduced Andy to the band.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Because there was. They had their own album cover and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh boy, I lost my point. Anyways, probably wasn't important.
Sorry, I did.
No, you're
cut
good.
you off.
You're good. With this new Monuments single, like I said, they do a great job of staying on top of the momentum curve. We had actually touched on how we felt like Polaris was falling behind in that standpoint due to their touring schedule and whatnot. So, starting with this single by Monuments, I guess my initial impression, which don't take this the wrong way, guys, but when I listened to it, I had already listened to Polaris's new single.
Same.
And you did too.
I did the opposite.
You did the opposite.
I waited.
Preston waited. So I listened to the new Monuments song, and I was like, okay, all right, this is different. It's different for them, but I like it. And then I listened to Inhumane, and suddenly I hated the Monuments song for a second. Unfairly. Not how I feel about it today. So just some advice for you guys out there. Listen to the Monuments song first, then...
Listen
Then
to the
listen to
band
Polaris.
that's not your
I'm
favorite
sorry.
of the two.
I listened to Polaris first and then listened to Monuments, and I was like, I said
Yeah.
it backwards, but
Yeah, I mean, same here. I listened to the Polaris song first because that's.
We were excited.
I mean, when I'm looking at my group chat that morning, it was Preston sent the Monument song.
he sent the shit early.
And then
I was up at 5:30 in the morning.
yeah, and
5 or
then I
5:30.
got the Polaris song. So as I'm backtracking, Polaris was first. So I hit Polaris.
Yeah.
I listened to that song about Wreck the Car.
We'll get there.
Yeah, it was fun. And then I listened to the Monument song, and I was worried because I was like,
concerned.
I was listening. I was like, yeah, I mean, it's good. I mean, his vocals sound killer.
Oh,
the
yeah.
music sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty in line with what they did on their last album. But I was like, are they going soft on us? Are they just going to focus on this dude's clean vocals because
He
of
can
what
belch.
it did for them
He can
this
belt it.
last album?
Yep.
Because this last album kind of blew up because they did
Because
kind
Andy,
of focus.
because before
Andy had a
Andy,
big following before he even joined the
well,
band.
and their vocalist that they had before Andy was not. I mean, he wasn't
And
bad,
I don't
but he
know.
wasn't.
I don't
he
know
was
a ton
real
about him.
different too.
I don't know a ton about him. I know
Sure.
I
Yeah.
listened to some of Monument's older stuff
Yeah,
before
like
they added this
the
guy.
8-string
The album
shit.
that had Leviathan
Yeah, it was
on
very
and-
heavy.
Yeah.
And then this latest album came out. I was like, oh shit, okay.
Well, remember
Okay.
I showed you Makeshift Harmony, and
I
you're
lost
like,
my
"What
fucking
the
mind,
fuck?"
bro.
that was one of the singles, I believe, off of In Stasis.
Yeah,
wasn't
and
it?
I was
Yeah.
obsessed with it when it came out.
So yeah, that stuff came out, and so this single comes out, and I'm like, yeah, it's kind of right in line with it. But have they completely taken away the screams? Have they just went, pretty poppy and just decided we're done with the metal, You know, we're going to keep the guitars a little, you know, we're going to keep that somewhat sound of metal, but not be fucking metal as fuck. And then the breakdown happened.
And then the break, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, woo! We didn't lose them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. No.
They are here.
That was my impression too, and I was not. I think I told you guys, I'm like, I don't want to say that I'm let down, but I'm close. And I think it was just from the sheer excitement of the new Polaris single kind of reverberating against this new Monument song. So I mean, today I went back and listened to it again, and I'm still not in love with it as much as I am some of the songs off of In Stasis.
Mm-hmm.
But it is way better than when I listened to it the first day because I was just so obsessed with the Polaris song. And we listened to it in here, and I told you guys, I'm like, God damn, this sounds so much fucking better in here in the studio than it does in my truck. I can hear every layer. The one thing I will critique about the song, I guess if I'm putting my music critic hat on, I don't necessarily care for how, and this is just me being a guitarist, being a musician, focusing on every angle of the song. The guitars are kind of in the background for me. It's a very vocally driven track, which I don't mind. I mean, some of my favorite bands are that way. I talk about Until I Wake all the time. They're a very vocally driven band, but that's not what I expect from Monuments.
Yeah.
I expect John Brown fucking ripping it.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So when I don't hear that, I'm like, that doesn't quite sound like Monuments.
So I understand where you're going there, and I'll give my take shortly after we have this little conversation. But if you remember when In Stasis dropped, we were kind of because remember we were talking about how the guitars were washed out of the mix.
Especially,
Do you remember us having that conversation?
I do. Well, because the album before,
I'm right here.
That had Leviathan on it and all that was very guitar driven. In Stasis was definitely a little different than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it might have been Makeshift Harmony there's another one that I wasn't crazy about when I first heard it off of In Stasis. No, I love Somnus. Can't remember which one it was. For some reason I feel like it was Makeshift Harmony. That Tyler, you said you lost your shit to. You have to show me the album and I'll
pull
tell
it
you
up
real
for
quick.
you.
But yes, it kind of felt to me like they were really doing the best they could to maintain that Monument sound that everybody knew while also highlighting, hey, here's our new vocalist and he's fucking kick-ass.
Yeah.
It was Makeshift Harmony.
Okay.
Yeah, because
That's
I
my favorite
love
off the record.
my favorite's Arch Essence. You know
Yeah, I
that.
know
Opiate, Collapse,
Opiate's sweet. Collapse is badass.
Somnus.
Shit, we're going through the album. Not
The
even talking
Simmer.
about
I mean,
the
they're
song.
all great. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
We're supposed to be talking about the.
Well,
single.
no, I just know that other than the singles that were dropped, that album it was kind of like a periphery album to me, where I had to give it some time.
Yeah,
I did have
get
to,
that.
and I remember
did
us
too.
having the conversation
Yeah,
you did as well.
I did too. Which there's so many. I mean, dude, I've talked about them till my teeth are gonna fall out. But Bad Omens' newest album,
You
Death
had
of
to
Peace
give
of
it some
Mind.
time.
It took me some time.
Yep.
Little sneak peek to our one of our episodes in season 3. There's another band that I've really dragged through the mud that Tyler and I both have really harbored some unfair
I just sat in
hatred
the background and listened
for, and we're gonna have to eat some crow on that. So
because I
stay
knew
tuned.
y'all would come around like
Stay
Green Day.
tuned for season 3 because we're gonna eat some crow. But yeah, it took me a little bit to grow on, and I think that's kind of how I feel about this new single of theirs.
I think it's very similar.
The
feeling.
more I listen to it, the more I notice different things. I'm like, man, dude, the breakdown, it's like I didn't even notice it the first time I heard it. And then we listen to it and hear it, I'm like, fucking. Ugh.
Yep. I don't know, man. I recognize the value of the song the first time I heard it,
Sure.
but I also recognize that it was easily being kind of eclipsed
Lost in the sauce.
by what I had listened to just before.
Yeah.
Which, was it maybe bad timing of Monuments to release the song the same day as Polaris? Did they even know that was
That's
gonna
my
happen?
No,
that's
I don't know
my
that they
biggest
did because
criticism
Or
of it.
is it really kind of irrelevant? Because if you think about it,
It's New Music
They
Friday.
do have a similar you think of like those two circles,
Yeah.
right? And like in the middle they have a shared
Yeah.
audience. However,
Yes.
for the most part,
Us-
I think each of them
Yeah.
have a separate audience. So
think
I
so, too.
don't know that there's that much bleed over where it was going to be that much of a problem. So they probably didn't think it was.
Yeah.
Well, and
But for us that live in that
In that
middle
middle ground.
ground in the butthole area there,
Yep.
Right in the ass.
that really did suck. I think it really took away from being able to enjoy that song. But as I was listening to it, like I said, like I enjoyed the vocals.
Mhm.
I could hear that the music was well put together, and then the breakdown hit and gave me the heavy that I wanted from them.
And that
I
you
was
expect
I
from
was
them.
really
You're like,
scared.
Yeah, dude, I was
really
too. It's like,
scared.
where's it at?
I
Where the
need
fuck's
it.
it at?
I need it.
I need
Build up. It's got to be a build up, man. It's got to be.
Dude, so, and I think I tweeted from our show page, note to self, never, ever, ever release music the same day as Polaris. Like,
Do not.
but Polaris's release was a surprise, which I've talked about with you guys in private. I don't know if
Yes.
we've talked about it on the show, but I love surprise releases. Monuments had teased the new single for at least a week
Yep.
leading up, because I mean on their Instagram page, they were teasing it for about a week. Polaris, it was 2 days.
2 days.
I mean, it was
yep.
2 days.
And it made me happy as
You
fuck.
heard you heard the whispers on Twitter. Sharp Tone tweeted Polaris, just
Yep.
Polaris, and I was like, oh.
Something's about to happen.
And then
in danger.
and then the next day,
I'm in danger.
then the next day, Polaris announced,
That it's
"Hey,
gonna play
something's
on
coming on
Triple J."
Aussie Radio
Yep.
tonight at whatever." And then the very next day, it's like, boom, it's here, and I'm like, and it's not just a single; it's like, oh, here's a whole album coming. And I'm like, oh.
So
Do you have anything else you want to touch on the Monuments
yeah,
piece? Real
I
quick?
really want to get into that part of that. But in regards to Monuments, bad job out of them.
Releasing on the same day as Polaris.
Dude, and I love
I
Monuments,
do too.
but like it didn't hold a candle.
And
to-
if you
for
got on
me.
Twitter, there was not nearly as much smoke
Yeah.
about Monuments as there was. And obviously on our show page, all I am in is metal Twitter.
Yeah.
There was not half the smoke and talk about. I mean, people were talking about the Sleep Token album more
Yeah.
than the new Monuments song. And hell, the Sleep Token record had been out for like a week or two by then.
yeah.
So
Well, you know, you and I were kind of talking before we started recording, where it's like we match up that single to their last album,
Yeah.
and it would not have been a single on that album.
no.
You mean the new Monument song?
Yeah, the new Monument song, because it versus like the singles they did drop, it just doesn't compete.
No,
yeah.
it's a. I hate to say this,
It's a great song,
but this is
those
because I hold
songs were
Monuments to
really
such a
good.
high standard because of what they've done. It's a filler song.
It
It is. It's so.
It's
and
it's
that
It's a pretty
goes-
good filler
it's,
song.
It's a
but,
great
like,
filler song. It's never going to be the best song on a record. If it's the best song on a record, I've got some fucking concerns.
Yeah. So,
I want
and
a
that's
fucking
where.
refund is what I want. Goddamn.
Dude, it was not as good as they dropped a single when Andy first came out called Animus, I think. Is that right?
Yep,
Animus?
That's what I'm looking at, and that's what I was getting ready to delve into.
That
so.
that single
It was
was
badass.
in fucking insane.
Yep.
I don't know that I heard that. I probably
it was
have.
sweet.
But
Well, it was before In Stasis. But it was like, dude, and it wasn't even on the album.
No, that's what I'm
It's just
about
a
to get
standalone
into.
song.
Yeah. So
Go ahead, Preston.
bad job out of them. The other part of it, I do see where they're going, and what I mean by that is knowing how talented Andy is as a vocalist, and I had a past with Andy due to YouTube, so I knew who Andy was.
we have history.
Yeah, we have some history. I knew who
way
Andy
back.
was before he had
I've been knowing him for years.
before he had decided to join Monuments, and I was really excited when he did. So when he had joined, they had released Animus. Another single they had released was Deadness.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I think That may be it, if I'm not mistaken.
I
Deadness
thought it was
and
just 2.
Animus.
You said 3. I didn't think that sounded
Yeah, I was
right.
thinking
I think
it
the
was
third
3.
was off of In Stasis.
But this single kind of reminds me of those two for some reason, and maybe not Animus itself, because I think Animus was a little bit better. But like you guys had mentioned, a filler song
Yeah.
where it's not meant to be, listen to this banger we're randomly dropping. It's like, here's a little shit for you.
Here's some
And-
content.
Yeah, here's some shit for you. And what I'm starting to realize with Monuments, and I don't think that it's a bad thing, but they are starting to slightly delve into a different direction, and it is more vocally driven verses. And that's where I noticed, I put 2 and 2 together, where in this single, it does sound like the guitars are either washed out of the mix in the verses or they're in the background. And it got me thinking, and I'm like, well, you know what? I remember kind of bitching at first about the last album because it was that way. So I think it's a direction that Monuments is going in. And as long as they have the heavy parts like Cardinal Red has and like Makeshift Harmony and so many others off that album, I'm completely okay with it. But in regards to this single, I'd give it a 6.5
That's what I
out of
was
10.
guessing. That was 6.
6.5 out of 10. I like it. I don't have any
So-
problems with it.
It's got good re-listenability.
Yeah.
The guitars being kind of in the background was not a complaint that I had.
Fair.
No, it wasn't a
So-
complaint on my end either.
I've heard both you touch on that, and I think it's because of the kind of stylistic backgrounds
Yep.
and the differences
It is.
between.
It's
And
Because
especially
for
the
me-
new Polaris song.
That shit doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
But I've also realized hanging out with you guys for as many years as I have, and
We love you.
listening to you, love you, listening to
Thank
you
you.
guys talk about music and
Shouldn't say that
listening
on
to
the
the
show.
music that you guys do. You guys really want the guitars
In
out
my fucking
out in front,
face.
in the face, just a wall up here. Whereas me, sometimes that gets
You
old
like
to
to
me.
be
It does.
surrounded.
I know what you mean.
You want to be surrounded and enveloped by the entire sound of the song.
Right. I don't
Um,
want to just hear guitars
riffs the whole time.
Yeah.
And I don't wanna-
with
Maybe
a lot
that's
of
why I like
metalcore-
Make Them Suffer so much.
Probably, but
Because
like
they-
with a lot of metalcore, man, it's just guitars and
Yeah.
drums,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then some screams.
Yep.
That's all I ever hear.
Yep.
Whereas with this mix that Monuments put out
Mm-hmm.
with their last album and this, it's you hear everything.
Yeah.
I just had a revelation. That's why you love Moths.
I fucking love Moths.
Yep.
Moths always, even their old shit. Yes, you hear the guitars very prominently, but it is like being surrounded. It's like this big blanket of sound
It's a
of the
warm,
entire
cozy
song.
fucking huggle, bro.
It's a warm, cozy metal
I do
hug.
love my hug. Z-
You got
plural.
more than one?
I got 2. I got a long one.
You
and
can
I got a
only,
short
I
one.
was gonna say, you can only wear
He got
one
a
at
long
time,
one for
bro.
when he's trying to be comfy, and he's got a short one
No,
for when
I
he's
got
trying
a
to get
long-
laid.
I was gonna say he's got short ones when he's cold, but he wants to get some butt.
No, I got a long one for the winter time when it's real fucking
Music
cold.
mouthfuls, give it to me.
And I got a short one when it's not as cold, but the house is still fucking cold.
Well, your wife keeps that shit colder than fucking there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean that's I just had that revelation because Moths does such a great job, especially on their newer shit. Anything from No Eternity and Gold onward, Pure Like Porcelain, the 2 new singles. It is, and that
It's
was
in
my
your face.
complaint.
It's in your face.
That was my complaint with the 2 new singles. It's like, where the fuck is the guitar at? It's just this big wall of hardcore sound. Bro, I'm
Man,
telling you,
I enjoy being able to hear everything. Like a lot of metalcore, the bass doesn't really exist.
hard to find.
Unless
you,
you're Polaris.
you feel it,
Mm,
right? You feel that the bass is there because
Remember,
of
it's
the
like
low
a condom.
end,
yeah.
right? And then they have the drums real nice and punchy. They cut through. That's fine. And then the guitars are just this big wall.
Yep.
And then there's like this little pocket for some screams and some vocals.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't hear everything. But the Monument, like that's why it confuses me a little bit when you guys talk about
So
like the mix.
what
and
I
whatnot,
mean by that
because
is
it's
You
not an
explain your
issue
part,
for
and I'll
me.
explain mine. Go
yeah.
ahead.
So what I mean by that is previous Monuments before Andy
Guitars
was not
are
that way.
here.
In your face.
Yeah.
In
It
your
was
face.
John Brown's band.
Yeah, John Brown and it was with Ollie.
It was
at the
with
time.
Ollie at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and those are two of my top.
Two of the
favorite
greatest
fu-
guitarists
yeah,
on the planet. Yeah.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Metal guitars, but so I think it was a slight change there. And when I heard "In Stasis," that's when I realized I'm like, whoa, man! During these verses, I know John's riffing out, but I can't. I can like barely make out what he's doing. And at first, I was kind of pissed, and we had this conversation. But then I realized, like, you have to show off Andy a bit.
He's too talented to keep in the background.
He
and I
can't
think
just
that's why
be
a
a
band like
vocalist.
Until I Wake, like that dude can
Yep.
do it. Like,
Yep.
think about Motionless in White. How often do you really hear every riff they're playing?
Right.
You don't.
You hear the
Chris.
main-
I don't even listen to them often, and I can speak to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I love Motionless. Here's my thing. If you're not gonna have the guitars in my face, you better have a hellacious vocalist behind you.
Yep.
Motionless does. Until I Wake does. Bad Omens does. There's certain metal bands out there that have that insanely talented vocalist that you're able to kind of fill that gap for me. But it's rare. And I guess my point on the whole mix thing, Tyler, is like, so my favorite, I mean, obviously everybody that has listened to 30
You're
seconds of
probably
the show
sick of us talking about them.
knows that Polaris is my favorite band, and they have been for, Jesus, 7-8 years now.
Has it been that? long?
It's been a long time, bro.
Holy shit.
I mean, since they came out.
yeah.
So, and the reason for that, one of the reasons, there's 50 million, and we're going to dive into some when we talk about their new song, but I hear everything at the same volume. Their production is insane. You can hear absolutely everything that's going on within that band. I don't know how they do it. They're
In a
fucking
clear ass way.
Fight me on it.
Yep.
There is no one on this planet that can make a piece of music like them where you hear every fucking note that everyone is playing crystal clear and at the exact same volume. Nothing gets washed out in any song. And in the new one, they added synth, and you hear every bit of it. We're going to dive into it here in a minute. Tyler,
I
you
still
raised your
think
hand.
we need to talk
So,
monuments for
I-
just
We do,
I
yeah,
would-
absolutely.
Not that we're gonna
But
fight,
that's my thing on
but
the mix.
like, it's a
not that we're
genre
gonna
thing.
fight.
It's a genre thing because
Yeah.
in other genres, I hear it all the time.
Yeah. But wait,
Because I
I'll
can hear
argue
everything.
with you about hardcore because it just sounds like a big mushed up wall of sound. How do you hear the bass in a hardcore song? How do you hear every?
So-
I mean, that's where I'd argue with you because your favorite genre is hardcore metal. I think.
I wouldn't say that's my favorite, but when it comes to like metal, that's
Yeah,
definitely my
yeah.
favorite.
Yeah. So it's like what? How do you? How can you?
What I hear from hardcore is I can hear everything.
Sure.
Do I hear the
You have a
bass that
musical ear.
much? Do I hear the bass that much? No. But I also had to take fucking college classes where these motherfuckers would give you a piece of music and you had to pick out every detail of that song, and all it took was you had to like close your eyes and focus on that one piece, and you had to follow like that one guitar part. You got like two guitars and it's like, nope, everything else is gone, I'm focused on this, and you listen to that the entire way through, and then you pick a different piece and you keep doing that. So there it was critical listening, things like that you have to have when you're doing production and things like that. But I hear it in so many other styles of music where you can hear everything. And I think it's just a stylistic, kind of a genre thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's also what people want. You know, people, since Metallica, you know, people
Yeah.
want to hear guitar, bro. They want to hear that guitar riff.
They turned people into riff head, like
Yeah.
riffers,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
riffers. I mean, we've talked about me
Yeah.
and Preston's almost our
But-
backstory.
Yeah.
So,
The other thing is, you think of, you know, one reason I would say Polaris does such a great job of being able to hear everyone
Hold it for the
is
Polaris side.
it's all
fuck
good.
it.
We're
fuck
still
it,
on
fuck 'em,
monuments,
fuck
damn
you,
it.
fuck you.
Fuck 'em. Fuck-
He,
no,
he
we're
already
gonna
he already
circle
brought
back.
it up. He already brought it up.
Fuck him.
Is
It's my
that-
fault. It's my fault.
Well, I'll bring it back into monuments and listen. So
We're
Polaris,
going to really delve into Polaris.
Polaris
Grab your teeth.
has great tones.
Oh.
And
God, the best on the fucking planet.
shut up.
The best.
Look. The biggest issue with metalcore and not being able to hear like the bass is because
Tone?
of tone.
Mm-hmm.
So when
Okay.
you have this really big, girthy ass
Mhm.
guitar tone,
Where's the bass going to truly fit in?
the bass doesn't have its own space
Yep.
anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
That's
if you're
fair.
looking at
It's
this
just providing
threshold,
like punch.
and this is your high spectrum, this
Yep.
is your low spectrum.
Your bass is only living
Your
in
bass
that.
is really shining down here,
Yeah.
and it's got a space somewhere in here where like the spank of
Yep.
it's going to come through.
Yep.
Especially if you're on that low or that
Right.
high, you know,
Yep.
And then-
G string or something.
The guitar should not be shining over here, but when you have all these chugs and
Yep.
stuff
Eight
like
and
that,
seven
you want-
string.
Yeah,
Yep.
7/8
yeah, this
strings.
low
Yep.
tuned kind of shit.
Yep.
It's
It's
gotta
taking a
it's gotta be
portion-
coming
It's
through
taking
down
something
here too.
away from the bass.
And so the same thing happens with like the kick drum and the bass.
Yep.
yeah.
Sometimes the kick drum, if not mixed well, can really get lost behind a bass guitar
Mm-hmm.
if you're not setting its own giving each piece its own space.
Yes.
And so that just comes down to the production. Polaris has always had great production. Everything that I've listened to, even the early stuff when they
yeah,
they really
Dichotomy, the
didn't-
first album.
when they really didn't even have
they were
as
not with
much
Sharp
backing.
Tone. They
Or
weren't. Yeah.
resources or anything.
So they've always had great production, but it started with having great tones and the band recognizing, hey, everyone needs their own space. And I see it a lot with local bands where the guitars will want to have this big girthy tone,
All the gain.
all the gain. The mids will be not quite turned up high, but they'll have the bass and the treble turned up real high, and it gives the bass nowhere to fit in because you got the kick drum slamming in a live setting, you have the guitars blaring, whole fucking spectrum, and no one's giving the bass its own space. And the same thing for vocals. Guitars can easily wash out vocals if not fucking
Especially in a
Yeah.
produced
in
right.
a melodic
Yeah.
type of harmonic setting where they're playing in that, not even in necessarily the same key vocally versus guitar, but just close. If you're somewhere close and you have a certain spectrum of sound between the guitar and the vocals that are even remotely similar,
Yeah.
and the volume is kind of in that same realm. Yes, I have heard guitars wash out
Yep.
vocals, which, let's be brutally honest, when it comes to music in general, the last thing that should ever get washed out is vocals,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
unless it's a purely instrumental song.
Yep.
And I feel like a lot of, and this is why I hate death metal. I hate death metal. I talked about it today. I hate death metal. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But anyways, I'm not gonna dive down that rabbit hole.
Sounds like my dog taking a shit, but
Exactly.
barking at the dog
So,
across from it at the same
so
time.
so I think the point, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think the point you were leading to was that Monuments is one of those bands that does a great job of giving a lot of people their space. Is that what you're?
Yeah, so each,
Yeah. Oh,
each
yeah.
instrument has its own space. And so some people like to think of music production and kind of sonic value, I guess, two-dimensionally. Where it's
Okay.
like you have kind of where it is in the panning and what the volume is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. So very two-dimensional. And they forget the piece of the EQ and things like that, where it's like, look, you got in the
There's
middle.
there's not just this. There's
Normally-
this.
Right. Normally you have like vocals, kick, snare maybe, and bass all in the middle. Right? Everything else is out here.
Yeah.
So all this shit going on in the middle, you really have to be able to EQ it to where everything has its own space. Otherwise, everything gets lost right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can use things like reverb and maybe a little bit of like aux channels to, try to help spread out that middle section. But dude, like there's so many bands out there, and I hear it in a lot of like local band production where everything is
It's
right,
right
here.
there.
It's as
Yeah.
loud as it can possibly get, and it's in your face, and it's so muddy
Yep.
Yep.
because of the volume.
But it's like, look, man, send them fucking guitars out here. There's ways to make them fill in like this whole ass space here, this whole ass space
It's
here,
like a checkerboard.
and and then having this fucking, your overheads and stuff out here.
Instead
you
of
can
having
throw like some backup vocals out here, in
Instead
the
of having
sides.
everything stacked on top of each other in one singular spot, you spread it out across the board.
Yeah.
Right? It's all in the front, but it's all got its own literal, like, think of a checkerboard, its own literal space.
Right. But then there's even the depth standpoint where you can use things like reverb to set things back here. So you have like shit
I
up
love
in your
reverb.
face.
He hates it. I love it.
I don't hate it.
You used to hate it.
Used well.
Yeah.
You can have shit where it's like all up here, and then maybe you want some layers that you want to sound prominent, but you want them to feel like they're set back
They're
here.
set back there.
And
Yep.
so you use things like reverb to set them back in the mix so that they're not in your face,
But they're still prominent.
they're still
You can still hear
prominent,
them.
and they still
Yes.
cut through the mix.
Thrice.
But you use things to
Oh,
like
yeah.
set them back
Thrice does
here.
some shit where you hear something
Oh
back here.
man,
and it's like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
And you won't notice it the first time.
And-
Second time you listen, it's like, whoa.
And I guess maybe that's, when I complain about not being able to hear the guitars enough, I said it earlier. That's probably why I love Make Them Suffer, because the entire fucking song, you hear every note that dude's hitting. That dude's riffing. You hear every fucking note, and he shreds.
yeah.
And I love it, and I'm jealous, and I can hear every fucking note he's playing, and I'm just like, go listen to Contraband by Make Them Suffer with Courtney LaPlante from Spirit Box. It'll make you want to kill people. And you can hear every fucking note dude plays.
So
Did you have a point you wanted to make on Monuments real quick?
I just
Not
I
real
want to
quick,
do
just
I
period.
want to do them their
You want to do them?
fuck 'em. How do I want to word it? I just want to be able to close it out properly on Monuments and not feel as if we quickly like went over that single. And what I mean is simply there's a direction that Monuments is going in that I'm here for.
Oh, yeah.
I'm completely okay with it. I don't have like any real complaints. Not like I'm going to sit here and say it sucks. It's just something that I think I need to listen to a few times to truly appreciate it.
We have talked about it.
Just like the
I was about to
Instasis
say that
album.
We
too.
have talked
we
about it
talked
with
about
bands
bands.
changing their sound.
Yeah.
This is a more subtle change.
Very subtle. Very subtle.
It is
yep.
not.
I don't know. I feel like when I've listened to old Monuments and I listen to Monuments
It's subtle
now,
from In Stasis.
it's
Yes, from in stasis,
fro-
it's a
ye-
subtle change.
Well,
When
I
you
wouldn't say it's much of a change at all.
But
I would.
excuse me. It may not
From the
be.
majority of that album, I would say it's a subtle change.
That album had a lot more heavy parts. in it.
Yeah. Now, here's my thing. Is Monuments going to make every song sound like this where the only real quote-unquote heavy part is the breakdown? No, they're not. They're a metalcore band. Technically, sorry, some dude that has a bunch of followers on Twitter corrected me and said, technically, Monuments is a progressive metal man.
Yeah.
Kiss my fucking ass. Just because you can play guitar better than me. Suck my fucking dick. But anyways, I don't even remember the dude's name. That's
It's
how irrelevant you are. We have more followers on
The
TikTok
shit-
than you do. Kiss my ass.
The shit that we talk about is just modern metal. Like
Yeah,
I'm
it
sick
is.
of saying
I know,
metalcore
yeah.
and this
So-
and that. It's modern metal, man.
It is. So
There's modern elements, but it's got these classical
Boomercore.
metalcore. Like,
Boomercore.
Crabcore.
Now those two things are real things, okay? Because there was a whole ass stance in crabcore, and the Boomercore guys are in their 50s now. So, but my thing with Monuments is that, yes, I think it's a subtle change, but when we talk about bands changing their sound and turning us off to them, you talked about, Avenged Sevenfold.
oh yeah, God.
They changed their sound from bad to worse.
Yeah.
Monuments is just kind of tweaking, I think. I don't really know that with Andy in the band, they're not doing anything major. From start to finish, yeah, there's been a pretty sizable change in their structure and kind of how they're putting music together. But at the heart, it is still the same style of music that they've always played. 'Cause
Yeah.
John Brown is still fucking
He's
riffing.
still riffing. Yep.
It's just they have much better vocals now, so they can show those off a little
Yeah, they're
more.
showing Andy off, and I don't blame him at all.
No, he's incredible.
Yep.
I mean, there are so few vocalists out there that can do what he can do, and that is the screams and singing at a very high level. They're few and far between. There's only a handful of them out. There are so many bands
so
out there.
hard to do,
Dude.
man.
But to have that pretty of a singing voice and still be able to hit those screams, like I said,
I think it's just you can kind of hear it. He's screaming more correctly.
yes.
So it's not
So-
as harsh on the voice.
And the other part of this that I think I'm starting to realize is, and I understand that Monuments, and I don't want to compare Monuments to Polaris because they are slightly different. They play
They're
roughly.
drastically different.
Yes,
yeah.
but they also play roughly the same style of music. To me, Monuments vocally is a little more melodic than what Polaris is for the
Yes.
most part. So I think the reason we're having this conversation, and this is going to probably bridge us in to the conversation about Polaris, is that Polaris just does it so damn fucking good that you can hear the guitars all throughout the mix, but the vocals are right there with you too, that they just do it so good that it's like, well, why isn't Monuments doing this? Or why isn't, you know
And
what
you and I
mean?
are always so unfair about that. So let's wrap this Monuments thing up real
And
quick.
I know, we're, yeah.
Love them. I'm here for the. You said it. You said, you're here for the direction
Yep.
change. I'm here for it too. They're one of my top 5 favorite metal bands
Right now, yep.
I mean,
Me
they
too.
have been for 2 or 3 years now.
Yep.
Because I love the album that they put out before In Stasis with the old vocalist. Even though
Yep.
he wasn't as good as Andy, it was still a great album.
Stygian Blue.
Stygian
and-
Blue,
Stygian, yeah.
Oh
is
my
that how
God,
you
yeah, there's
pronounce
some
that?
awesome
I
fucking.
can't read, so
Yeah, I went to.
Sing it.
No,
Should have been dead.
He's rocking back and forth with the
you had to
mic.
do the thing. You had to do the thing. I got the
Hey,
black
Scott
shirt on. I
Stapp
just
does-
need to get sweaty. Scott Stapp does this shit.
Yeah, he does.
he opens up for that mouthful, bro.
So yeah, that's all. That's the only singing you're ever gonna get out of me is that. That is my own prison.
Right there was a Monument's mouthful, ladies and gentlemen.
So I'm here for it. I'm all about them. I do really like the new single. I'm just give me more. It's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, give me a makeshift harmony.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on that before we move on? Y'all good?
No, I enjoyed
we
it.
did a decent job.
Like I said, I recognized the value of the track when when I first heard it. It was just, dude, it's really fucking hard to come in after the banger that Polaris
Jesus
released.
Christ, and I can't wait
And
to
we're
talk
gonna
about
we're
it.
gonna dive
All right.
in because
It's time.
Dude, listeners,
Everybody
regardless
readjust. Everybody
whether
take
this
a deep
is
breath.
well, this is Patreon listeners, but I
Right
understand.
now. Yes.
Yeah, other listeners, if and when this comes out to you as well.
We haven't decided yet. We might drop this publicly just to give people a teaser for what they missed on Patreon, just for a one-time thing. It won't happen again. It'll be a one-time deal.
Yep,
But for anybody listening,
we
go
want to
ahead,
get
Preston.
more of you in here with us, and
Because you guys deserve to hear this shit too.
absolutely. So,
But we don't work for free.
Jesus Christ,
Listen, hey, when you have a valuable product,
you don't do it for free.
you don't do it for free.
You don't do it for free.
And we've had way too many people tell us
Yep.
that this is a valuable product. So some of it, very
Yep.
very little, 33% of it, that's literally what it is. It's 33% of this product. We're not doing it for free. So go ahead, Preston.
I fucking lost my point.
Well, you went off on a tangent and sent me
So
off
I
on a
said
tangent.
Polaris. Oh, what I was going to tell the listeners is I understand on this show, we mention them probably 3 times a show. We sound like giant dick riders, and I understand everybody.
There's a reason for it, though.
Yes, I understand everybody's musical palette is different. We all like different things. But hear us out and open your fucking ears because I promise you they're the best on the planet, and you're not going to tell me any different.
If you're listening to this show, especially this deep into or where, however many episodes deep, and you're listening to bonus content, you listen to metalcore. You do.
Yep.
Because 90% of the bands that we talk about are, well, I would say maybe not 90, but maybe 70 are metalcore bands. Okay? So you have a similar, at least, music palette to what we do. And I don't think Preston could have said it any better. There is no one out there, in our opinion, at least me and Preston's opinion, that does it better in this space.
And in regards to metalcore, probably Tyler's opinion as well.
He might argue with us on mods.
I don't. Yeah, that's right.
He might
Moz
argue
would be
with
the
us on
only one
Moz.
though, if I'm not mistaken.
But there's no one out there that's doing it like they do. And I mean that in the sense of the quality and the style uniqueness, all of it. So let's talk about, before we just dive full blown.
Don't dive in because I'm going to take a piss.
Okay, that's fine. So let's talk about Inhumane. Okay, the new single.
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, I took a shit this morning, Tyler, since we can't talk about Polaris. Preston's got to take a piss, so I took a mean shit this morning.
Oh, yeah, did you?
But anyways, so yeah, Inhumane, and again, I've told you guys before that I love surprise releases. That's my favorite. Probably because it just, this is the only kind of surprise I like. I don't like surprise birthday parties. I don't like surprises at work. I don't like surprises at home, whatever.
Don't like surprise positive pregnancy tests.
Well, I didn't until my little dude came along, but yes. No, yeah, no, that's fair.
Shit?
Yeah, it was good shit. Yeah. Dipshit just walked back in here, so. So I love surprise releases, and I was, building up for the Monuments thing. I was like, oh man, fuck yeah, Monuments is dropping new shit. Let's go. Like, I'd been jamming the new Currents album for a while, and I don't want to say I was over it, but it had been a couple weeks. I'm like, yeah, give me something else new. The Make Them Suffer stuff I'd been jamming.
I'd say it's been about a month.
Has it been that long? Oh, it has been damn near a month. It's like May 5th, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's been
here
about
we are.
a month.
We're sitting here like June 1st, so yeah. It had been a month. So, and then out of nowhere, Sharptone tweets Polaris, and I knew something was coming, but I just thought
It was perfect timing.
I just thought they're gonna announce they've got some new shit coming out. No. They dropped that shit less than 48 hours later, and I'm like,
I fucking hate how bands will be like, be on the lookout at 6:00 Thursday night. We got big news.
and it's like, we're dropping a new single in 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm like, kill yourself.
Yes, bro.
Kill yourself.
Like,
all right?
nobody gave a fuck what you just said, dude.
No, Polaris is like, boom, new song. And I'm like,
Polaris is
that's
like,
what?
hey, something might be coming.
Boom. Well, that's what I
New
want to.
song and new album coming in 3 months.
I'm
like,
so glad we're talking about this because before it was, if I'm not mistaken, even with Polaris and other bands, it was, you would find out when they're releasing a new single, and it's like either a week from that day or 2 weeks from that day. That's what they had
That's
always
fair.
done before.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, no.
This caught me completely
Oh,
off
dude, it
guard.
was a full-blown surprise.
Because not only did they release it, fucking 2 days later, they released. It wasn't a single that showed up on Apple Music.
Oh,
it
it's
was the album. They had never done that before.
Nope.
And we knew from a post, probably was it 6 months ago that you had sent that they were back in the studio.
I
or
sent
something?
you a post.
Maybe
like
8
it was
months
probably,
ago.
It was probably 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember because, dude, it was like right after Walker, my kid was born.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, damn, that's awesome. I mean, my kid's cool and all, but like new Polaris, man, let's fucking go, babe. Look, she's like, what the fuck? We have a 2-week-old.
I have a kid sucking on my nipple right
Yeah,
now.
exactly. That's what I'm screaming. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
but
yeah, but like new Polaris.
Yeah.
So we
yeah.
knew something was coming, but they didn't hint at when.
Nothing.
It was just a
Nothing.
it was just a picture of them in the studio. Like
Yep.
it was a picture on their Instagram
And
of
they
studio.
I think they had said an update of just, not just so you know, but something about them being in the studio and they were writing.
I mean, just so everybody knows, the winter months here is summer in Australia. They were touring hard during winter.
Yeah, duh. Yep.
So they were recording obviously last fall, and then wintertime start touring hard. Now they're touring, or this spring they were touring in the UK, I think, or
Was it?
in Europe, I think, and they just announced a fucking tour with Currents. Like, what? In Australia.
So
Just in
we're
Australia.
we're all going to die.
Apparently we're going to Australia, is what. we're
So-
saying. But yeah, go ahead. We
that
haven't even
makes
started to
me
talk about the
makes
single
me
yet.
think of music marketing in general,
Mhm.
Yeah.
where it's like everyone has this idea that you have to constantly be in your customers or your fan base's face
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, look, if you're fucking good,
You don't. Exactly.
people are going to
Good
be
point.
looking out for it.
Good point, dude.
Like,
Well,
yes, you need to stay relevant. Yes, you need to ride the momentum fucking mountain train.
We want to
whatever.
have an idea of
You-
what's
you-
going on.
You have to
This is
give the
huge.
people something to keep. Look, hope is the most powerful fucking
On the planet. Yep. Yep.
concept on the planet. And when people have hope, and you put just a little something like a picture of them in the studio, everyone
two guys
knows
like
what the
us?
fuck that means.
Yep.
And we're all very hopeful of what's about to come. And then you don't need to market this bitch for 6 months before you drop something.
No.
Yep.
You don't need to drop 6 fucking singles off
Nope.
the album to get people interested
Nope.
in the album. You don't have to do this shit.
I don't. Okay.
If the product's good.
Kyler's got something to say. I,
I
don't
do.
want him to lose it.
No,
Good-
I,
good
I
point,
don't
though.
want to veer off Polaris too far here, but you bring up a fantastic point. Bless the Fall disappeared like 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They literally tweeted BRB, and then no shit, nothing for like 4 years, not shit, 3 or 4 years, something like that. I could be wrong on the timeline, but it was several years, nothing, no tours, no new music, no nothing. Everybody's like, well, they broke up. That's it. They're done. And then like 2.5 weeks ago, there was a rumor going around. Somebody had seen something on a Discord or something that was an album art or like a cover that said "Bless the Fall, Wake the Dead," and then it blew up on Twitter like, "Oh my God, they're back! They're coming back!" A day fucking later, they're like, "Oh, we're back. Here's a new song," and it's a fucking rager.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, these dudes disappeared for 4 years, completely disappeared.
Yep.
And again, this is probably not a band that you guys go crazy about. I was really, really big into them when they were all
I
the time putting out.
actually went back and listened to some of them because they'll pop up in shuffle once in a while, and I'll add some of their stuff. And I was just looking for something different to listen to. So while I was in the gym, I listened to one of their albums. Man, I forget
Hollow
what
Bodies?
it was. I want to say it had like a white and maybe pink
Oh, the newest
cover.
one. Yeah, it's like a neon pink. I can't remember what it's called, but fucking, it was more poppy, but god damn was it good. The album before
Right,
that,
it
Hollow Bodies.
reminded me of some of this stuff like Monuments and
Mhm.
Bad Omens,
Bad Omens.
and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, I can dig this. And
While She
I was about to
Sleeps.
start into some of their older albums because that's where some of the stuff
Yeah.
I'd added came from. It was like dark and blue.
So
I
their
gotta step out for a second.
go ahead. So their last album, was I can't remember what it was called. That, like Tyler said, it was like a white brick wall, had like a pink neon thing on it or whatever. I can't remember what it's called. God damn, look that up for me. Jamie, we're going to turn you into Jamie
Oh,
from the
sorry,
Joe Rogan
sorry.
podcast. So, and then the album before that was Hollow Bodies, which was like straight up heavy ass fucking metalcore.
Oh, Hard Feelings.
Hard Feelings. That's
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Because they had the one really cool song, Wishful Sinking. I remember it had a cool ass riff.
Yeah, and Hollow Bodies
Yeah.
might not have been the album directly before that, but it might have been.
No, To Those Left Behind was
Oh, that's
before
like
that.
fuck. Yeah, so
Yep.
they put out several albums that were absolutely insane, and I loved. And then they straight up disappeared out of nowhere. And Tyler, talks about hope, right?
Yep.
Well, when they fall off the face of the earth, everybody's like, well, damn, they're just gone. And then they drop this fucking, like, song out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden they blew up again. They're all over.
Mhm.
They're all over social media. Everybody's tweeting about this song, talking about this song, listening to this song. And it's like, here's a band that was incredibly popular that literally fell off the face of the earth. And out
Here
of
comes Tyler
nowhere,
bringing in a random ass guitar.
we got another guitar in the Beat Lab.
Jesus,
That's nothing
here we
new.
go.
Guitar delivery. So, Tyler,
Dad brought my Fender back,
Oh, cool.
hell yeah.
or our Fender back.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a group Fender. Yeah, mine's coming home with me, but so it's a great point. You talk about hope,
Yep.
and we don't have to have the constant. Oh, be on the lookout for this. No, you could just drop a hint a day before you drop something, and
Or
that's what.
maybe not even a week is okay.
Yeah, And Polaris did it in 2 days. And
Well,
then
what it is, man, is part of it's record labels, part of it is just the business in general. But they get so wrapped up in the numbers,
Yep.
and that's kind of like, you know,
Every
I've
fucking
talked
business.
to you about this podcast. Don't worry about the numbers.
I knew you were gonna
if
go
we
there.
if we build it, they will come, and it's like,
if you build
Look.
it, I will come.
oh baby, but like, look, man,
I'm going to come.
I'm gonna.
These bands, these labels, whoever it is, what they want to see is the day of release a huge fucking uptick in listens. And they want to see a huge uptick in listens of this whatever it is they drop, whether it's a single or an album. And they also want to see what it does for past stuff. And they want to see those things increase, because what we know is Polaris dropped this new single. I don't know about you guys, but I fucking went and listened to Mortal Coil.
I did too. Yep. I
You
went
went
last-
fucking ass, I did.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so they're looking for numbers like that.
Yep.
Dude,
But
there were so many people.
They didn't need to do this whole like huge build up
Nope.
to this single. And oftentimes when bands do that, it's a
It
fucking
flops.
letdown.
It flops.
Because
Yes.
you build so much hype around this thing, and
Yep.
and you expect it to be amazing,
Mhm.
and it's
Bro,
so hard.
McDonald's-
It's so hard to live up to that.
McDonald's does
McRib?
not have to hype up the McRib when it comes back.
Yeah.
They
They
just
just
say,
gotta.
McRib's back, baby.
Yeah, that's all they got to do.
And my fat ass goes against it.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. The McRib's fucking disgusting. McDonald's is disgusting, but that's besides the point.
McDonald's is poison people.
Yeah, eat Taco Bell instead.
Oh.
I don't know that that's any better on the poison
No, it's
aspect.
So,
however.
dude,
what I
it's a
will ask.
Fucking fantastic point.
Yes.
Preston, I don't want to cut you off.
No,
but
you're
I mean,
good. You're good.
It
I
is-
thought we were nearing
if,
the end.
If your product is fucking great, you do not need to hype it up for 6 months. You can hit us with it in a week or 3 days or
But also
whatever, and
think-
we're gonna go and, like you said, it
Think-
made you
think
go
about
back
it.
and listen to the Mortal Coil.
Think about it for a second. If Polaris spent 3 weeks hyping up this song before they released it, do you think you would have enjoyed it as much?
No,
Because for 3 weeks they would have been hyping it up as being this great fucking single,
Yep.
this
look
great
at Asking
fucking
Alexandria.
song.
They were
And-
like,
Oh, it's gonna be everything you ever dreamed of.
Mhm.
And then we would have listened to it and been like, synth though? Like,
Mhm.
yeah.
I don't know.
Look at Asking
And then,
Alexandria.
like,
They hyped up a song for 2 or 3 weeks. Like, we're going heavy again. It's going to be so fucking heavy. They share the same 5 seconds from the song, and then you listen to it, and it's a fucking rock song, and you're like, what the fuck is this piece of shit?
And it's not that it was a bad song. It's just that you thought
Yes.
it was going
It's
to
a
be
really good
heavier.
song,
Yeah.
actually. I've listened to
Yeah.
it several times, but it's
Yep.
not what they
Yep.
hyped it up to be. And Tyler and I covered that on the bonus content episode we did without you.
Yeah.
Just poor marketing.
Yep.
right.
All right.
So anyway, Polaris.
So
Let's
before we dive into Polaris,
Okay.
Tyler, I would like for you to shout that fucking bourbon out, because that shit
Oh,
is the
dude.
bomb.
because the guys listen, I
Do I need
know.
to grab the bottle? Do I need to
Alright,
grab
yeah.
the
My
bottle?
guy Jake,
y'all
I don't know if
people.
you're a bourbon listener or not, but we can show this to the camera because, hey, speaking of that, I could go for a refill. As you guys know, I mean, obviously, for the most part, we talk about music business, all that. But we are a little bit of bourbon connoisseurs, all three of us here. We have a little bit of a collection between the three of us. We always bring something over and sip a little something while we're recording. And Tyler picked up something new in Kentucky, right?
Yeah, so I was I had an appointment down there, and it was like 3 houses down from this liquor store in
Yeah.
Kentucky, and I stopped in there just to browse. I had a ton of time to kill. I talked to the guys that worked in there, and I was like, this is kind of what I'm into. You got any recommendations? And I ended up picking up a couple bottles of wine. Yes, I like wine.
I like a good
Fuck
wine.
you.
Don't. Yeah, it's all good.
But anyway, I picked up a couple bottles of wine, and then I was looking at the bourbon, and what I was initially going to do was just kind of go to something I'm familiar with. So I'm a big fan of the Angel's Envy Rye, and they had a bottle of that for like $30 less than what it normally goes for. So I was going to pick up a bottle of that, and I was like, man, I kind of want to try something new. So I'm looking at this huge wall of bourbon, and I'm like, but like, what do I pick? And I wasn't seeing much that was like these big names, these big sought out, bottles. But I was like, something's going to catch my eye if I stare at this wall long enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I seen a bottle that said Heaven's Door. And what kind of caught my attention was each bottle had its own proof label.
So because this is cask strength single barrel. This is
Right.
not regular run of the mill Heaven's Door.
Right. That is a single barrel. So each barrel is going to have its own fucking thing going on.
Yeah. This is hand
And
selected.
that ended up catching my eye. It wasn't a extremely expensive bottle. I think it was like $50, and the branding looked
Oh, it's
good.
gorgeous.
And
Textured bottle.
Yeah, I mean, and the color of it,
Oh my
right?
God,
So
it's gorgeous.
I look at the color
I
of
do
it
too.
because if it's too dark, so like the Woodford Reserve double
Double
oaked,
oaked.
Mhm.
It's very dark.
it's very dark. I'm not a huge fan of it.
That's actually one of my
I've been more. I've realized that I'm more of a fan of these lighter colored bourbons.
Mm-hmm.
Some about them they end up being more smooth, and that
They're
seemed to
less
be like
woody.
that seemed to
yeah.
be like in the middle. And I was like, okay, I can dig that. And then I seen the 120 proof, and I was like, I'm about that life.
Try 121.9.
Yeah, so it's a lot.
Yeah. So
It's a
you
lot of
can
proof.
see there is not much. If you're watching this on YouTube or watching this on video, whichever, there is not much left because we have been drinking this one nonstop every time we record.
Well, this is only the second session we've drank on this.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're alcoholics.
We got a
And
problem.
We have a problem. Don't tell our wives, except Tyler, because he doesn't have one anymore.
Damn, bro.
Sheesh.
You got me. You don't need a damn wife. But no, if Derek, I know you're listening. This one right here, buddy, Heaven's
Yeah.
Door. This is single barrel. This is actually selected by Gallenstein. Must have been the blender or the selector's name. It's similar to when you go and buy a store pick of a bourbon, right? So I have a Clyde May store pick from that I got in Indy. I actually got it
Okay.
in where did I get that? I want to say it was Indianapolis. Anytime I can buy a store pick of a bourbon that I like, it's always going to be better because it's literally hand selected from a certain barrel. That vendor or that taster or whichever master blender, master brewer tastes that and goes, "Yep, that one I want that one in a bottle to be a store pick or a master pick or something like that." That's what this is. And that, I mean, my dad has a $50,000 bourbon collection that he literally has insurance on because it's worth so much, and he
Jesus.
doesn't have this. That dude has thousands of bottles of bourbon. I sent him a picture of this one. He's like, "Yeah, I don't have that one." I'm like, "Tyler, you got a fucking good one, buddy. If my
Yep.
dad don't have it, then that's a
Yep.
good one." So shout out Heaven's Door. You guys make a fucking kick-ass bourbon, and I will be in Indiana here in the next couple weeks. And Indiana's about like Kentucky when it comes to bourbon. It's
Right.
really fucking good. I will be looking for this one myself. So shout out Heaven's Door.
I can probably pick up a bottle for you.
I think that was a good break
You
in
do.
between
It was.
each song.
If you do, I will gladly pay you for said bottle because I would love to have that in my collection. My next one that I'm bringing over, I think you'll really like. It's going to be a surprise, but I got one in the pocket that I'm bringing over.
Okay.
It's going to be
Okay.
good.
Surprise me.
I will. It'll be a good one. Deep breath. Inhumane.
Polaris is fucking awesome.
Where do we start with it?
We just start with Polaris is awesome.
Polaris is awesome.
Look, when I first
Tyler, I'll
started
let you
hanging
go
out with
'cause
these
I'm
dudes,
I'm gonna refill.
yeah. So when I first started hanging out with these dudes,
With this,
one of the first one of the things I heard the most. One of the things I heard the most was I would be sending shit in the group chat, and it would be, if it's not Polaris, it's dog shit.
yep.
So I knew right away that Polaris was huge to you guys, and Polaris is not one of those bands that had to grow on me.
Yep.
Right? So there was a few bands that
Mhm.
you guys have shown me that had to grow on me, like Era.
Yep.
Era took some time to grow on me. Periphery actually took a little bit of time.
Same as me.
You know, there's a few of these bands that definitely took a little while, but Polaris was different, and it was close enough to some of the metal I had already listened to.
From us or just in general?
Just in
Your
general.
titty just flexed. Did you do that on purpose?
Yeah. Anyway,
Great tits.
Great tits, bro.
No nipple having ass, bitch.
I got that opposite problem.
That's my
I got a lot of nipple.
Too much nipple. I'm sorry. Polaris was similar to some of the metal bands you've been listening to.
Yeah, so I was into kind of the hardcore. I was into. I'd already listened to some metalcore, but sorry, I'm hearing weird noises from over there. I think there might be something living in the garage that I don't know about. But anyway,
We'll name him.
yeah, George.
Yes.
We're gonna fucking kill
The
George.
third.
But I think one of the things that really drew me to Polaris was their Jamie is the name.
Yep.
Jamie.
Okay,
Yep.
bad with names.
No, you're good.
His screams are so much like what I hear in
Yep.
hardcore.
Yep.
And I fucking love that because so much of metalcore is the same scream
Manufactured
between
screams.
bands
Yep.
throughout the entire song,
They
throughout the
scream to
entire
scream.
album. It's not that they scream to scream, it's they're screaming the correct way and they're doing that one
Yep.
that one pitch
JT
scream.
Cavey from Era.
And
Yep.
man,
We shit on him. Hey, sorry about that, folks. We had a bit of a technical difficulty. So, I get the all the screams sound the same, and Jamie just does such a fantastic job of being the opposite of that. And I haven't. I had the opportunity, but had something come up, couldn't make it. You guys have seen him live, so I'm sure that the energy is just the same live as it is on a record.
So to put it into perspective, and I know we kind of want to talk about the song, but I think this is a good job of prefacing things about Polaris before we talk about
We're
anything.
setting expectations.
Yeah, so we seen Polaris with Ryan, their lead guitarist, was not there, and they had a fill-in, but Rick, Dan, Jake, and Jamie were there. We seen them at the Foundry in a suburb of Cleveland, which it was a shitty shotgun-style venue. And when I say shitty, it was a cool spot, but sonically wasn't great.
sonically it wasn't great. It was okay. The room was shaped weird. Like the whole space was kind of awkward.
Dude, it was like 15 foot
Because
wide.
well, it was more than 15 foot wide, but
It sure
like
felt like it.
it was pretty narrow, and then you had the stage kind of off to the left, so it wasn't centered in
That's
the
right.
space,
Yep.
which would have probably helped with the awkwardness of the space.
Hold on. So we talk about all these negatives about this venue, right? Not the greatest, not horrible.
Hold on.
And
Her
they
sister
were
was a witch,
fucking
bro.
incredible. Jamie
great.
sounded exactly like Jamie. I mean exactly like Jamie.
So I don't want to shift this too far, but Tyler and I are going to see Moths in July, and I feel like Chris from Moths is another one of those vocalists that incorporates so much of the hardcore type. I'm not screaming just to fucking scream. I'm releasing some motherfucking demons, and you guys have seen them live a few times, so I feel like they're very comparable.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that's probably
I still
Tyler why you love both Moths and Polaris.
I love the screams from Moths. Would I say it's as closely related to like hardcore as Jamie?
No.
No. But you feel it, man.
Yep.
You feel it when he's screaming, and I think that's kind of what's missing from some of the bands that we talk about in metalcore and stuff is that lack of like emotion that you feel from the music. I mean, look, the song itself is going to invoke emotion in some way, shape, or form, but like, bro, I want to feel your pain.
Yes.
Yes.
And
your
that's kind
anger,
of fucked
your-
up to say, they're making money for spilling their guts, for everyone to see, but it's
At least
like
they're well compensated for
but
it.
it's like, look,
We
man,
think.
if you're going to make
We
a
don't really
song,
know.
if you're going to make a song that is intended to be thought-provoking, invoking emotion, things like that. Motherfucker, I need to feel you feeling the shit.
Yes. Yep.
Let me be in that room with you.
Yep.
And when I hear a song from Moz or I hear a song from Polaris, I fucking feel that they're going through it, man.
Yes, sir.
I feel what they are feeling in that moment. And I tell you, as someone that's doing screams and stuff, I've had a hard time with my screams lately. And part of it is just I've had a hard time putting myself in this particular mindset
Mm-hmm.
that I kind of need to be able to deliver the screams that I want to deliver.
You do a great job of it live, though.
But it's like even in practice and stuff, I've had a really hard time getting myself in that mental space where it's like, okay, I'm really ready to let this emotion go. I'm fully enveloped in this emotional, like, fucking cocoon that I need to be in
Yeah.
to open up and be this butterfly. You know what I'm saying?
I definitely see what
But-
you mean, because there's some days Sean comes in here and you can tell when he wants to sing.
Man, yeah, you can.
Like, he'll come in here and like the first 3 songs.
I can tell you right now, Sunday, that motherfucker wanted to scream.
Yeah, like the other day when we had
Straight
practice,
up, I was like, you guys did
and it comes out of nowhere.
the one song that I don't care for the guitar part in,
Mm-hmm.
but the vocals in that, I mean, I'm like, oh, Sean wants to fucking release some demons
yeah,
today.
the newer one. That's right.
Newer one.
Yeah,
I
yep.
mean, I'm like, yep, that sounds in fucking incredible. I
Yep.
mean, he was just
he was just mad.
that
It
that
just felt
yell,
mad.
I
Yep.
can't even describe what Sean does, but he did it. He did it to an elite
Yep.
tier that day on Sunday, and I was like, he's in that mindset. But when he was singing, it was really soft, and you couldn't hardly hear it. But when it came to that part where he was screaming,
Yep.
I'm like, that's what he wants to do today.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you really have to be feeling it yourself to be able to release it the way it needs to be released. And I think that's, in part, I feel like screaming the correct way, quote unquote, is almost like a cop-out. It's almost cheating. And I don't say that to be derogative
No.
in any way, but
It's
it's
a
like
fail-safe.
you can practice that. You can be well rehearsed at that, and you can deliver it the same way every time. Era.
JT
Yeah.
Cabby.
But what Jamie does,
it's dude. I feel every fucking.
I am
ounce
sure
of
that
it.
dude is headbanging
Every
a
ounce
fucking
of it.
wall before
Yes.
he walks out on
Bro,
stage.
and the coolest thing, if you watch their music videos, his eyes, and maybe you guys don't realize it, but if you watch their music videos when he screams, his eyes are fucking giant.
And he's
like,
just playing along. He's just
losing
doing.
his
He's just
fucking
mouthing
cool.
to a recording
Yep,
in that.
yep.
Imagine it
Yep.
live. You know.
Didn't have to.
Yeah. Right. So Inhumane. So they come out of fucking nowhere, like Nick Castellanos, way into left field, with an absolute fucking banger. And the best way that I could describe it is, what the first listen, I was like, this is so different, but this is fucking
This is
Polaris.
Yep.
Like, it was just,
yep.
it was so different than anything that they'd done before, but it was Polaris. Like, they had all of the, Inhumane has all of what I want and expect in a Polaris song and more. And then they throw the synth in there, and I'm like, I don't even like synth that much unless you make them suffer, because they do it at an elite level. And then Polaris throws it in there, and I'm like, what is happening to me?
Yep.
And so they, it starts, I mean, first off,
That bass tone.
Jake's bass tone is fucking bonkers.
Yep.
And it's when a song starts off with a bass riff like that, I know immediately that it's going to be an absolute fucking banger. The fucking new Stellar Circuit song, Witch House, starts off with a bass line like
They
that. I'm
released
like,
another one.
they did. It's really good too.
I
I'm
haven't
excited for
listened.
that. Yeah, you need to listen. I'm excited for that album. But anyways, when you start off with a fucking bass riff like that has that kind of tone, especially when you're Polaris and you're Jake from Polaris and you're playing a 5-string and you're literally playing everything that Ryan and Rick are playing,
Yep.
I know what's coming, but I didn't know what was coming, because
You
when
had no
it
clue.
dropped, and I'm like,
It was like this just vibey bass riff.
it was, and then they dropped. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just like, those bends and the tone. Nobody makes a fucking 7 sound that crisp and tight.
Nobody. Yep.
And
Well, I think-
Tyler, you talked about it earlier in the show, is their tone is just immaculate. It's absolutely immaculate. Go ahead with your point.
I
don't wanna
was
cut
just
you
going to
off.
say, with Preston recently getting a 7-string, he kind of looked into the tuning and stuff they use.
It's a unique. Preston,
it's
you want to touch
it's
on
based in C sharp,
Yeah, it's based out of C sharp. So
Which-
the,
so
the
it's
regular
not like it's a
6 strings-
super low.
Right.
that? My
tuning.
all-time favorite tuning. I call it God's tuning. Is C sharp. but
So
whatever.
Well, I will say that I think this song might be a half step lower. So I think this
It's C.
song may be out of C on the top 6 string,
It sounds like it.
and the top string is a G instead of a G sharp.
Well, it's like, dude, you don't need to go super
don't-
low to
No.
be
No.
heavy.
And I've
They're
been bitching
heavy as fuck.
I've been bitching about this for how many episodes now?
I mean, we talk about it all the time.
I'm
Dude,
so
you've
hit-
been
these
bitching
bands that
about
are-
it for like a year and a
Yeah.
half.
Dude,
I'm
all
so
these-
sick of hearing bong, bong, bong. You
I
know
mean,
what
it just sounds like a bass guitar.
Let the bass guitar carry
Yeah.
that bomb.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't need
Shit.
two. You
I
don't
don't
need
know
3
that I did a
guitars.
good job representing.
No,
it,
that's
but-
it. You don't need 3 guitars carrying that same note.
That's like Silent Planet came out with that
Yes.
latest album, that
Yep.
most
Yep.
recent album, and it was.
I
It
was
did not
afraid
tickle my
Invent-
fancy,
No.
dude.
I was afraid Invent was going to do that with their new record because they've kind of done some of that shit
Yep,
in the
they
past.
have.
Alpha Wolf has too, but their
Yep.
new album doesn't. But
So-
go ahead.
No, so
They're
what-
so
what was
fucking
the
awesome.
point
They
you
make
ma-
a
before
higher
the tone
pitched
point.
tuning.
What was the point you had made, or maybe it was you?
I made a lot of great
And
points.
I had something
I always make fantastic.
Oh,
points.
so
I never miss.
where
ever.
where I knew
Except
this
on
song
Sync
was different, and I understand it started off with a bass riff, which is different for Polaris, right?
Yes.
But where I knew this song is different is when the vocals were introduced. Jamie's like kind of vibing and like doing
It's
this
kind of like in the
piece
background. Yeah, it's very.
And I'm
yeah.
like trying to hear Jamie when I'm listening. I'm like, wait a second.
and then he
And
builds
then
it up.
They
and it's
build
like,
it up, and Jake starts screaming.
while Jamie's
and then,
rapping.
And then Jamie does the rap part, and I'm like, holy
And
shit.
Rap Screams, go listen to the last Landmarks album.
Yep.
Rap Screams really, and
Yep.
Screaming Evidence.
Yep. We do a
Sean
little bit.
on
The mom song.
the mom song.
Yep. Yep.
Rap Screams, bro, they hit different. And Jamie, like, it's just this big build up. And the thing about Polaris is they rarely ever play the same riff twice the exact same way, ever.
And if
And
they
a
do,
chorus-
it's the best fucking riff you ever heard.
And a chorus doesn't sound like, they don't do the whole verse, chorus. I mean,
no, they don't.
it's
Nope.
this big spaced out, everything's different.
But they put it all together.
And it meshes so well. And Inhumane is the perfect example for that, where the whole song I'm listening to, Preston, you've talked about this so many times on the show.
yeah.
I want to be surprised. I don't want to know what's coming next. I've heard verse, chorus, breakdown, blah, blah, blah,
Yep.
so many times. This song, Inhumane, the whole time I'm listening to it, I'm like, what especially the first time, I'm like, what's next? I have no clue what's coming. It's just this big onslaught of
Surprise release, surprise throughout
song.
the entire song.
Mhm.
I love it.
Yeah, it's just I'm trying to find the words to describe it. Is it their greatest song ever? No.
But it's fucking legit.
Is
But it
it-
didn't miss.
No.
It's a
They don't.
it's an
They
elite
do
song.
not.
They don't
Yes.
miss. That you find me one, I will go to fucking war and die on
Yes.
this hill. You find me one bad Polaris song.
Yep.
I dare you.
Yep.
Go listen to their whole discography, all the EPs, the first album, all of it.
All
you
right,
find me
so,
one bad
hold
song.
on,
You
hold on.
can't.
Are you saying a bad Polaris song in relation to their other songs, or a bad
just a song you
Polaris
don't like.
song-
A song you don't like.
A song you don't like.
Yeah, that doesn't exist.
It doesn't.
There's a difference between a bad Polaris song and a bad song.
Yes.
Right.
Okay,
So
because
that's what I was getting at.
the
'Cause
worst
like there
Polaris
might
song-
be a song or two
the
in there
worst
that's
Polaris
like
song is a great Alpha Wolf song.
right, and
Yeah.
that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Because like
fight me on it.
Polaris versus Polaris. There might be some.
Yeah, for sure.
There might be some.
No one's ever asked me,
there,
what's
but
your least favorite Polaris song? Because, boy, I'd really have to fucking think. I'd be like, well,
Hey,
what's one that I've maybe heard too many times that I don't want to go listen to again? But you know how many times I've heard Consume?
Yeah.
Hey,
And
Kyler,
Yeah.
what's your least favorite Polaris
Hmm.
song?
Give me your
No,
phone.
we
Give me
ain't,
your phone.
we
Give me your
ain't
phone.
diving into
Give me your
that
phone.
right now.
No,
'cause
I'm curious.
I
I'm
got
very
some
curious.
points before I
You make
forget
some
'em.
points. Give me your phone.
So the other part, and I think Tyler will appreciate this, and I hope that you have realized this when you listen to it. When I heard this song, especially during the verses, I got new metal vibes. Did you notice that? With the rap parts and the not that new metal's not structured, because I know it is. But something about it, and I don't know how to explain it, but I got new metal vibes. Go ahead.
I
What's
know
the
it.
song?
My least favorite Polaris song, you're going to fucking hate this. It's
Really?
just because I've heard it
Crooked
so...
Path?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's just because I've heard it so many times because it was a single. Masochist.
Okay. Yeah.
Love it.
I can feel.
I figured
can,
you'd
I
pull
can agree
something
with
off
that.
of Dichotomy.
No, because Dichotomy is something that I revisit once every couple weeks. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
no, it's Masochist because the music video. It's
Yeah.
one that they has
They
been.
did
I
parade
didn't
out.
think. I didn't think it was
necessarily-
their best song.
No,
It's a good song, though.
I will tell you
It's
what
an
though.
absolute
Pray
great
for
song.
Rain
forget
is
about
a
it.
goddamn masterpiece.
Before we get into all that, we
it is
Forget about
a
it.
fucking masterpiece.
Forget about it.
We gotta keep talking
I ain't
about
forgetting about
Inhumane.
it. Don't tell me to
We
do
gotta
that.
talk about Inhumane, bro.
No, fuck that. We're talking about Polaris. Polaris is amazing.
No, so
It
I
would be
got new.
Masochist just
Yeah,
because.
so look, new metal vibes, and I got that through kind of
There were some
more of
vocal
more of the
pieces,
bass
And there was some bass
when they were doing
pieces,
kind
yep.
of the rap screams. Look, a lot of
and the
that.
build-ups, like where
comes
Jamie goes from
from
singing or
nu
talking
metal.
to screaming, like Corey Taylor.
Yep. And there were what was cool about this, there were elements to me where it was like, how do I want to describe it?
Very carefully.
Very carefully.
Don't choke
very
on your water. I'll
carefully.
give you something to choke on if you want to choke. Just kidding. It ain't that big.
I think you put it in a good perspective of it was everything I wanted out of a Polaris song, but
Without
there
being
were
repetitive.
elements that we haven't heard before.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was.
And it
yeah.
was simple. There's been synth in Polaris music before,
Yeah.
but not as heavy like it was in this song.
Especially in the verse.
Well, it's like they brought something fresh and they done it well.
Yeah, I'm kind of sick of hearing synth, like this full-on synth added to metal.
Like laser sound synth.
Yeah. And Northlane did their thing with it.
Oh, God.
Fucking
Northlane.
I like
80s
Northlane.
synth style shit thrown into
But
music.
then I
Hey,
think
you
about
be careful with 80s synth. I like 80s
Oh,
synth,
shit.
okay?
oh shit. I think about this song and I have one song
talking
I
about
want
Bad
to
Omens
compare
here.
it to it. I have one song I want to compare it to and I can't think of the second, but I feel like it's in between the two. And I feel like it's a mix of Hypermania and maybe let me think. A mix of Hypermania. What's a song?
Now, wait
they
a
do?
minute. How are you getting Hypermania from that? Because Hypermania is
Just
way
because-
faster.
Hypermania is faster, but when Hypermania came out, it was different for Polaris at
Okay,
the
that's
same
fair.
time.
Hypermania was
It was
completely different
different.
from the
It was
Mortal
different.
Coil, and it was the first single from.
Masochist was the first.
So it was the
Hy-
second single from
then
the Death
then
of Me.
Hypermania, then
Um,
Landmine.
Oh yeah, Landmine. I forgot. That's another thing. Polaris is not one of those bands that like we're gonna release half the fucking album as singles.
Oh, that's the other song, and I know that maybe at first you'll be like, "What do you mean?" I think it was kind of a mix of Hypermania and Landmine.
Ooh,
Landmine's kind of an onslaught the whole time. Yeah, Landmine's kind of an onslaught the whole time, but there were elements of
Dude,
Landmine
that
in this
word-
song.
that word is Polaris. It's an onslaught
Yeah, it is, dude. It
because
is.
even Martyr
Yep.
starts off nice and slow, and then
Sonder.
Saunder's just a buildup. Sonder is
Oh.
the entire song is this gigantic buildup.
And then it just goes hard as fuck.
Yeah.
I could talk about these guys for
Well, we
fucking
can. I
hours,
mean, we
man.
could talk about it for hours. And here's the thing. Yes, I understand we're probably biased, but listen, these guys have flown under the radar for the. I mean,
I'm
not
sick of
so
it.
much anymore.
I'm sick of it. They're
Not-
still not on the level of what they should be.
No, they're dude. Listen,
They should
bands-
be. They
and I
should be as
get-
big as ABR right now, and I know they haven't been doing it as long.
well, listen. ABR is backing them up now. Polaris is headlining tours with ABR as a supporting act. So
they're getting there.
they're getting
Hold
there.
on, ABR.
August, Burns Red.
Red. Sorry, you
Okay.
don't like acronyms.
But you know how August Burns Red seemed like they just blew up.
Well,
and they're
every
on
show I've
top
seen
of-
them, they're the headliner. ABR.
Right.
Yeah,
And they put on a hellacious show.
Look, I
Um,
think Polaris is getting the recognition they deserve.
They are now.
Do I think it has been a slow process? Yes. But anytime I run into anybody that listens to metalcore, everybody knows who they are.
Yeah.
Is it everyone's favorite flavor of
No.
metalcore? No.
Do you
What-
think that's
what I
because,
mean-
do you
But-
think that's because of the hardcore vibes?
I think it's a couple things. I think
Okay.
one, it's the hardcore vibes. Two, I think it comes back to what I have repeatedly said about pop music and what people
I get that. Yeah,
people expect.
yep.
Polaris doesn't
not
just
that.
do the exact same thing over and over.
They are the opposite of octane
I think
core.
they are extremely creative in the riffs that they write. I think they're extremely creative in the way they put those riffs together into
Mhm.
songs. I think they are lyrically creative. Their bass player ain't no bitch. I mean,
No.
he plays with a pick, and I normally got something to say about that, but like
The shit they're doing.
the shit they're doing,
You
you
can't
really
finger pick that.
you really can't finger pick it
and he
as
sings.
clean as he is playing
And
it
he
while
sings.
singing.
Yeah.
And as a bass player that sings also, it is so much harder for me to sing and play on the bass than it is guitar because
A lot
it's
of times
not
in a
it's
chorus,
not
there's a rhythm.
it's not
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
digits that I'm worried about.
It's
It's now I'm really thinking
10.
about
8.
right. Well, it's not like two hands I'm thinking about like I am with a guitar, right? With the bass, I'm thinking of one hand and then
4
two
digits,
digit,
yeah.
2 to 3
3
digits
digits,
depending on
yeah.
the song. I never use my pinky.
I was gonna
to-
say, yeah.
That's God. I'm trying to do it now.
Could
and
you
it's
imagine
kinda,
picking with your pinky?
It's kind of
Yeah.
tough. I mean, I can
3,
I can
2
do
to
like
3.
a quadruplet kind of thing real quick once in a while.
Okay, Cliff Burton.
But it's really fucking hard to do. But
There's only one Cliff Burton.
trying to
right?
do
He's the only
trying to
one that
do
was doing
this
it.
shit with the two fingers while you're picking out the stuff and you're trying to sing, and oftentimes what you're singing isn't going along with the rhythm that you're playing, and I can tell by Polaris's shit what he's singing and what he's playing do not fucking mix well. So kudos to that dude.
Well, and that's where the reason I say this is because you go to a metal show and somebody tells you their favorite band is Fit for a King or Amity. And I understand you're going to say, well, it's because of the pop elements and it's because it's predictable and that's what people like. But it's like, you're telling me you would listen to Fit for a King or name me some other bands. I don't
we
know.
wouldn't.
Memphis Mayfire.
Memphis
I mean,
Mayfire.
We wouldn't.
No.
Right? But
the
the
average
general populace,
dude.
the
I'm telling you,
average
it's
listener
people that
would.
don't play instruments.
But it's like you like metal music, bro. This is an onslaught of fucking metal, man.
But that's my thing is I'm sorry, and this is going to come off really. Sometimes we like to be controversial on this show, and I'm going to get controversial.
Oh shit, we're gonna piss somebody
That's fine.
off.
It's fine. I don't care. We're
Hurt
not
some feelings,
We're not.
dog.
We're not the average podcast. If you don't fucking play an instrument at all, you don't know music that well.
Maybe you just can't
No.
appreciate it
Just
as
shut up.
much.
You don't know music that well. It's not about appreciation. You flat out don't know it. And the poppy, every song sounds the same. This is fucking metal, headbang, throw the horns up shit. That's fine. That's fine. I'm looking directly into the camera, and you can get mad at me all you want. If you don't play an instrument and you don't dissect music and understand music, a band like Polaris or a band like Moths or you name it that we talk about on the show constantly, Greyhaven, Norma Jean, Thrice, these incredibly diverse complicated musically complicated bands that we talk about aren't going to be your cup of tea all the time because you don't fucking know what you're listening to.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I will meet you in the middle with that.
Okay.
Do I agree? Yes. But I want to add a little context to it.
Sure.
It's not like you have to
I'm the dick. You're the mediator.
It's not even like you have to be the greatest guitarist ever, the greatest
I'm far
drummer
from it.
ever, or the greatest bass player ever, the greatest vocalist ever. It's just the fact that you try. Because
Uh-huh.
if you try,
Then
I mean,
you realize.
then you realize.
Yes.
Like Preston got the 7-string and he and I fucked around
Oh,
with
dude.
learning some Polaris the one night and he was struggling with it.
And I
I
consider
grabbed
myself
it.
pretty decent guitarist.
You are a hell of a guitarist.
And
Preston's one hell of a guitarist, especially in that kind of realm. Me, I'm pretty good at like
Dude, he
learning
taught me,
stuff
like,
and
3 different
figuring
things
shit
tonight.
out with
Like-
by ear and whatnot and kind of looking at tabs and kind of figuring things out. And bro, I was struggling.
bro, it was a bitch.
Like it is not for the faint of heart. And so I know some people aren't going to listen to music just for the sake of how difficult it is to play.
And that's fine. That's
And that's
okay.
fine.
Yeah.
But
I'm not.
the element you cannot dispute, whether it's how challenging it is or how easy it is to play, is the level of creativity. Because what the guys in Polaris are doing, it has not been done before.
No. And here's where I struggle is, and I don't mean to be a dick. No, not everybody plays guitar or plays bass or drums or whatever. And I get that, and that's fine. And I struggle so hard because I see all these people talk about, oh, Avenged Sevenfold's the greatest metal band of all time, and they're talking about all
Fall
these
in a fucking hole.
they're talking about all these fucking radio core bands, and people get pissed at me on social media because I'm like, you know, the gatekeeper. I've said it before, the gatekeeper of real metal, and I'm like, yeah, because I understand how difficult the shit that I enjoy is to play, and I have a problem when people who don't understand music talk about how fucking elite these run-of-the-mill radio core, octane core bands are. I'm like,
Right.
they're not.
And it's
They're not
even,
as musically superior as, and they might be, they're just not putting it on a record. But you can't sit here and tell me that a band like Avenged Sevenfold is in the same fucking stratosphere as Polaris, because they're not. I promise you, they're not.
but it's not even just, again, how difficult it is to play, but it's like how
How
they
did
put
they
it
think
all
of that?
together.
How
It's
did
composition.
yes,
We talked
yeah.
about it in a recent episode where I was talking about how there's shit that I listen to just because I am obsessed with how it was the episode with Mitch and
season 3.
he was
Yep,
talking
be on the
about
lookout.
being a composer and not
Yes.
so much a musician.
What a great conversation, by the way.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's great. And I think more of the composition and I think more of
Yeah.
I fall in love with the choices that artists make.
Dude, that's why Thrice,
And-
even if I don't love their music, they are one of the greatest bands of all time from a songwriting standpoint, from a composition
insane, dude.
standpoint.
I appreciate you saying that.
Dude, listen, you people listening can think that I'm the biggest fucking cocksucker of all time because I shit on your favorite mom and dad rock and roll bands.
And because we spent a weird amount of time alone.
Hear me out. Hear me out. It's quite nice though. But a man has to know his limitations. A man has to admit when he's wrong. All that fun stuff. I don't care that if I don't particularly love Thrice's music, I'm still musically talented enough. That sounds so arrogant, but it's just because I'm a musician. I play guitar. I've played guitar for a long time. I've dissected music for a long time. I can appreciate the fuck out of what a band like Thrice does when it comes to songwriting and composition. And sneak peek, sleep token. When a band is able to do something on a almost spiritual level when it comes to putting a
Right.
piece of music together. Sean talked about it in his episode, how it is incredibly difficult to take 4 to 5 different people from different backgrounds, put them in a room and say, make me a great piece of music.
Right.
They can all play a 5/7/8 riff.
Yep.
Okay. But when you're doing something that's much more complex, much deeper in emotion and feeling, and not your average song structure, that takes so much more talent to me. And that's why I get so frustrated when these people who really don't understand music, and I'm here to teach you, we're here to teach you, we're trying to pull you into this group of, listen to this, because this shit's on what you're listening to. I know it sounds judgmental, but it's not meant to be that way. I'm just trying to open your eyes and expand your musical horizons to something that, takes way fucking longer to put together than the last, Five Finger Death Punch record that you listen to that
Takes
took them
so
2
much
months
more
to do.
talent though too.
It
because
does.
look,
I'm glad you said it, because I've said enough dickhead shit.
it's like this.
I love when you say that.
I have fallen in love with the choices that the guys from Polaris make.
That's metal as fuck.
And I have fallen in love with the way they put their layers together because they do it in such a creative way. They're extremely talented musicians, so they're doing things that are really extremely difficult to play, but they're also putting things together that not the average person would
No.
think of. And you can tell there's such a chemistry within the band that they're able to feed off
Zero
of each
lineup
other.
changes.
Bro, there's an energy in that fucking room together, and that's what I want to hit on when you said
Yes, sir.
that.
Hit it.
So it's a 5-piece, right? So you got 5 hellacious musicians, and we hear that in their music, right? You got
absolutely.
Ryan, stud. Rick, stud. Dan on the drums, absolute freak show. Jake on the bass, he's nuts.
You
I don't know
talk
how.
about freak show. Yeah.
I don't know how he sings.
He
and
might be the
does what
biggest
he
freak
does.
in the band.
And then you got Jamie, who's a freak show in itself.
He's superhuman.
So not only are we talking about a band that individually are freak shows,
Right.
they're able to get in a room together, and there's a certain energy that goes around in that room, and I would love to just sit there and be a fucking fly on the wall.
Oh my god! In a recording session with them,
But there
Yep.
has to be a certain energy that goes around in that room of, no, Rick, don't go there. I'm not thinking that part. Let's try this and see if we can mesh it back to this later on in the song. Like, and that just flows, and it gets the next guy going, and I feel like I can see it and picture it.
Well, you
in
can
my
see it
head.
because that's what we've been doing with our new songs.
Right. Yep.
you can feel every single piece of their creative energy in every song that they do. You said it perfectly. Like there might be a piece that Rick wrote that, Ryan or Jamie's like, I love that, but I don't love it here.
Yeah.
How can we tie it in somewhere over here because it would fill this space great? The critical thinking and creative thought that goes into every one of their songs. Every Polaris song is a fucking journey.
Yep.
It is not just some like fucking just
Yep.
we're just gonna
Yep.
put some. There are a lot of bands out there that can write a song or two like that. I'll give you a perfect example. A Day to Remember. You talked about them earlier. Sometimes You're the Hammer, Sometimes You're a Nail. That's a fantastic song.
Mhm.
That song
Yep.
has so many different layers and so many different emotions in
Yep.
one piece of music. That's an all timer. That's
I
it.
love that song.
That's it for them. For me, they
For
don't.
you.
I don't know that they have another one that touches that song.
Yeah.
They might. I mean, I probably need to re-listen. But that's one. They might have
I could
another
probably
one.
take you down a Day to Remember journey that you would appreciate.
Absolutely. I sleep.
But
on
it
them
but
so
it but it comes
But-
down to knowing who you are and
Yeah.
your taste, and like we talked about, kind of the bridge. You got to like show the person the right shit to
Yep.
get them into it so they can appreciate
So,
it and then dig into the other stuff.
My
Yeah.
ultimate point there was that there's a lot of bands out there that can write a few songs that have that complexity and range of emotion and excellence in composition. every single song that Polaris puts together on
They
a
don't
fucking
miss.
12-song record does not miss. They all feel like their own album. Every song feels like its own album. It's its own experience. And there is no one else out there on this planet, for me, that does it like that.
And that's where I think I'm trying to digest all that we're talking about. And I'm thinking from a listener's perspective that may not be a musician. Like, for example, y'all have heard the story a million times, but me and Kyler grew up playing riffs because of Metallica. And I'm thinking of somebody that's not a musician or doesn't play an instrument.
Before you get in this, let me preface this. I know I said that if you don't play an instrument, you don't know music. I don't mean it in that totality sense.
Yeah.
I mean, because I know people out there that don't play an instrument that really love the kind of shit that I love because
Yeah.
they really digest it, and they just don't play an instrument. That's okay. So don't think that I'm speaking to an entire group of people. I'm just saying, on the whole, if you play an instrument, you really digest music more. I'm just trying to encourage people to pick up a fucking guitar, really.
Yeah.
In all honesty. Sorry, Preston. I
No,
didn't mean to cut you
you're
off.
okay. So I'm thinking of somebody that may not play an instrument but is into this kind of music. And I think of Polaris, and I think of Monuments, I think of Make Them Suffer. I think of bands along that realm that are, well, we call them riffy bands,
Yeah.
whatever.
Riffy bands.
And maybe we're attracted to that because of how riffy it is, and other people are into Amity Affliction and A Day to Remember. Like other people who don't play instruments are into A Day to Remember. They're into Amity. They're into Beartooth's got some shit, but I see where you're coming
Look.
from. Is it because that's not what they're interested in? They're simply just
Here's the
interested
thing.
in the song?
When you guys first met me, was I into the riffy shit?
No.
No.
But
I
you were
was
a guitar
not.
player, which is
I'm
weird.
a guitar player. I was
Hmm.
I was never really into the super riffy stuff. Could I appreciate it? Could I listen to it and enjoy it?
Yeah.
Yes.
But it wasn't your favorite.
Was it my favorite thing to listen to? No, because I've always cared more about the song and the composition than I did about the individual parts.
Mm-hmm.
But when I listen to Polaris, it's look, there's only one other metal band that I like more than Polaris, and that's like Moths to Flames.
Mhm.
And that's because their songwriting is just
Yeah. Yep.
just
Chef's
love it.
kiss.
But when
Dark
I
Divine
listen to
really did it for you,
Polaris,
didn't it?
Yeah,
oh
it did.
my
Mhm.
Lord Jesus.
Yeah.
But like when I listen to Polaris,
Is Dark
it
Divine
is-
a bigger influence on you than Restoring Force is?
Yeah, why is that album not tattooed on you? You got space there.
Well,
on the
those-
other
those
side of
two
the-
albums are
I do have space.
somewhat similar to me, and I know it's not as metal.
I
Restoring
think
Force is.
if we're gonna just
We'll go
sidetrack
back to
for
your
just a
okay,
moment,
Okay.
the reason I haven't put like Moths to Flames on my sleeve is because even though I got big arms,
do
I
got
am
some big
I
ass
am
arms,
limited
bro.
on space.
Yeah.
And
Gotta
for
get
me,
bigger.
Restoring Force was like the gateway for me into this realm of music.
Yeah.
It's fair.
So
I
it
started
meant
listening to
little
it
more
just
at
a
the
little bit
time.
before I met
Yeah.
you guys and started hanging out with you guys. And it was kind of the stepping stone
Yep.
into that realm. It was what taught me the lessons I wanted to learn out of
Yep.
this genre as far
Mhm.
as like vocals and whatnot. And I really felt it was a great album. But would I be opposed to putting like Moths to Flames or Polaris on my arm? No, but it would take a lot of thought to really make a decision which album would go
Mhm.
on.
I would get
Uh,
Polaris tattooed on my face.
I'm about
Dark
to get my
Divine.
half sleeve, and it's going
was
to
an
have two of their
amazing
albums, maybe
album.
3 on it.
However, because of the lack of production, it just doesn't hit
Yeah.
the way I want it to. But when we heard the songs live, oh, they blew me away.
I'm doing a calf sleeve. I talked to you about this.
Yep.
And I'm going to do Polaris, Ride the Lightning, Metallica at the top because that's what started it all for me.
Right.
I'm also going to do, I told you, like the dead bleeding girl on the floor from the Poison, Bullet for My Valentine, the Currents logo, the moon with the skull and the teardrops, and then like the album cover from Shadows Are Security, As I Lay Dying.
Yep.
So we're all going to kind of have these different pieces of artwork from these bands. that
But
just-
very similar tattoos.
Well,
yeah. And there's going to be a similar theme because I feel like Polaris is going to eventually make it on all three of them.
So the other piece of that is you think of like Breaking Benjamin on my arm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've talked about how I actually prefer Chevelle.
Mm-hmm.
However,
What Breaking Benjamin did for you at the time.
I felt that the Phobia album
Yeah.
really represented that entire
Yep.
era and kind of realm of music. But also, I had to consider what album covers look cool to put on me
Yeah,
because Chevelle has nothing that I care.
There's nothing
Do I
really
put do I
cool.
put the UFO on
Right.
there?
Right.
Do
That's
I
fair.
put some of their really fucking abstract weird shit on
They
there?
do got
No.
some weird ass album covers.
So
don't they?
that was kind of a distinguishing factor too. Do I think the album cover for Dark Divine would be cool? Yeah, I mean I have these
But it's
weird
also
blacked out dudes on here from
Yeah.
Brand New. Wouldn't be much different putting the weird looking figure from Dark Divine on there.
How cool
but-
did Death of Me look on you though?
Mm,
We're all three gonna end up with
you
that
know what I'm
record
saying?
tattooed
Like,
on
you
us.
know,
The Burning
I like
Man.
the thing. I
It's
like the
been my
thing with the
background on my
fire and
phone
the
for
stuff.
2.5, 3 years.
It's also been what you said. This is going on my forearm for
Yeah,
like 3
yeah.
years.
I
So.
need
But
to get it done.
I
Yeah, you
guess
do.
I
I got
guess
a guy.
back to the topic.
the guy that did my forearm piece.
I'm going there.
Like
Most likely.
look, like Monster Flames writes amazing songs. I think Polaris, as far as a composition standpoint, is why I love them so much.
Mhm.
Is because the compositions are fantastic.
Yeah.
As someone who's not into the riffy stuff on the same level that you guys are,
Mhm.
The obsession that
the
we are.
obsession
Yeah.
that you guys have. Look, I listen to that stuff as a guitar player and I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Do I care to listen to Whittly Diddlies all
Right.
day?
Right.
Not so much. But god damn, those songs are fucking
They do
amazing.
So good, bro. Listen to the fucking
So
Remedy.
well put together. I mean, look, there's no one else out there doing it in metalcore the way that Polaris is doing it.
Bro.
I truly don't think so. Not even Make Them Suffer, and their last 2 songs are fucking kick ass.
But if you listen to Make Them Suffer,
Bro, their lyrics go hard.
they do, but it's like I don't feel much different from their newer stuff
To their older
than
stuff.
to their older
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas
they just
Polaris,
rage, dude. They just rage.
I love
I
it.
mean, Make Them
Yeah.
Suffer just.
I
when
love
you want to
it.
rage,
with
that's
a little bit
always
of
my
melody.
go-to.
With
But
a little
like-
bit of melody.
Yeah, they're a deathcore band that throws in some melody.
but like you said, Polaris, each song is like its own
It's own-
experience.
it's
Bro,
own-
listen.
And
there's
every
an
album,
episode
they're
of-
adding in something fresh
Yeah, there's a
and doing it
there's
well.
There's an episode. I don't know if it was a couple weeks ago or whenever the hell it was. Listen to Vagabond, and then listen to Landmine. Completely fucking
How
different
about go
songs.
listen to The Descent and then go listen to Martyr off the same album?
Well, yeah, I'm trying to exclude songs like Martyr, and because that is like purposefully different.
I don't remember song names, so I gotta go back here. But Lucid,
Vagabond's the one with the fucking
Lucid?
tambourine and
Ooh, Lord
oh god,
Jesus.
Lucid's got the God riff.
God,
the God
riff.
riff.
Oh man, it's got the God riff in it.
Listen, the breakdown and consume.
But,
Crooked Path. Oh, bro, Crooked
Crooked Path
a
is one of my
jam.
favorites. Jesus Christ.
I mean,
Oh, fucking. God! I just want to rage, bro. Fuck.
look. Let's talk about some of these song titles on here.
Off the new album coming?
Harbinger, Nightmare. I mean,
I like that they're all
Harbinger,
like
like when I
one
think of
word
Harbinger, I
names.
think of like Harbinger of Destruction. or
one
Harbinger
word
of
name
Death.
Right.
songs.
One yeah.
Parasite.
Aftertouch.
Fault Line, All in Vain.
Yeah,
These
Yeah.
songs are probably going to be bangers, bro.
Dude. will
Don't judge
say-
a book by its cover, but when it's Polaris,
You're
you
gonna
can
talk
kind of
about
get
the
an
album
I
idea.
am going to talk about the album cover. It's different. So when I first saw the album cover, I was like, man, that does not look like a Polaris album cover. Because if you notice, at least with their past 2 albums, now if you go back to Dichotomy, yeah, this new one kind of matches up to Dichotomy. But the last 2, Mortal Coil and the Death of Me, both hyper realistic artwork.
Yep.
Um,
It's a good way to put it.
and it is.
I don't
very-
think this one is as abstract.
I don't
as
think
it
it's
seems.
abstract. I just think it's
It's
different
more
than the last
animated
2.
looking or
It's
something.
definitely more animated looking than the previous 2. And Tyler will be the first to tell you that I am super into album artwork.
Mhm.
Tyler will send me a record and know that I'll like it strictly because, yeah, it might be somewhat in the realm of what I like, but if the album cover goes hard,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, bro, Stellar Circuits. That's how you got me
Yeah.
into them. You sent me that one, and I was like, dude, that album cover goes fucking hard. And listened to it, and I was like, oh, that's fucking filthy. There was another one that you sent me that we listened to the other day in the car on the way to your dad's concert, and I can't remember what the fuck band it was, but the album cover like goes super hard, and I'm like, yeah, I like the album cover. I'm probably gonna like the album.
I
So-
don't remember which one that is, but I showed you Seosin.
Yeah, you did.
Was-
show
was
me.
that
No,
it?
it wasn't it.
I didn't
No,
think it was
this-
it because their album cover was kind of
It has a beetle on it.
Yeah, there's
It's
a
kinda
beetle.
Weird.
It is
Great
kinda
music.
weird.
Great music, but bro, if you just go back and think about elite albums of all time, so many of them have. Dude, Artist in the Ambulance, like that album cover is so fucking cool because it's so plain. Like it's just a picture of a buildings,
Right.
and it's
So
like,
a cool topic to cover on this show, and I don't think it needs to be for this episode. Is it the album cover, or is it because of you listen to the album, it changed your life in some way, and you associate those songs with that
Okay, so
album
I think-
cover?
first impressions are everything, right? So when you're looking at an album cover, when you click on a record to listen to it for the first time, you see the album cover. You have a first impression in your mind.
Mhm.
So you are setting an expectation with that album cover, whether you want to admit it or not. It's no different than a job interview, how you're dressed for a job interview. Before you say a fucking word, people are judging you based off of the way you're dressed. I'm judging an album before I even hear the first note picked by the album cover.
Mm-hmm. Well, the reason I say that is because I think of No Eternity in Gold by Miles. At
I'm gonna be real
first,
with you. I fucking hate that album cover.
I hated that album
I hate
cover,
the album cover. I still do.
and I'm not crazy about it to this day.
Dark Divine is so much better.
Yeah, so I hated that album cover at first for some reason. I don't know why I hate. Maybe hate's a strong word,
It's
but
too
whatever.
busy.
Yeah, it is busy. But then I love the album, and now I'm like, yeah, when I see that album cover, I'm like, that's one badass fucking. You know what
Well,
I mean?
it's like this.
I love when he
You
says
want-
that. I love when he says that. It's like
you
this.
want the album cover to portray what the music
yes.
is about to portray.
Yep.
You want those two things to relate.
Yep.
You think of our
So I guess we are.
I was
getting
gonna
you,
into
ask
you
this
think
on
of
the show.
How do you
our
feel about
album
Inhibitions?
covers. So when I'll start with Head Up Along the Way.
Mhm.
Fair.
What Sean wanted was he wanted something very abstract. He wanted something along the lines of Chevelle's album covers where it's a very simple
I
concept.
feel like that's
They
what
make
that
it
is.
very abstract and voila. The idea of Head Up Along the Way, okay, you think of the album title itself. To me, I thought of like a horizon. And if you look at the album cover of Head Up Along the Way, it is kind of essentially a horizon.
And you guys are a rare
But it was
instance
made-
of where you gave the album a name that isn't a song name.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And then Inhibitions, the majority of the songs that were going on part 1 and part 2 never really happened. And I know Sean's writing style, and I can't give you the lyrics verbatim, but a lot of it has to do with literal inhibitions.
Mhm.
I mean, inhibitions being those innermost thoughts that really kind of torment people and really only come out when you're fucking drunk and vulnerable, and you lose your grip on being able to control those inhibitions, and then they come out. And what I thought of was basically this personification of inhibitions, and this idea of like a person, like the inner
It's a
you,
war within yourself.
screaming out.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted it to have this dark feel,
Shout out, Seven.
where it's like
Mm-hmm.
where it's like this personification of inhibitions is screaming out from the darkness within you. And that's where the idea of the album cover came from. And it just so happened that Seven was able to bring that
to life.
to life. And, you know, can I say that we have the most amazing album covers? No, but when I think of amazing album covers, that's what I think of. How well does it relate
describe
to
the
the
album?
music?
So that's
Yeah.
why I think The Death of Me is might be the greatest album cover of all time.
Ooh.
Because if you really look at it, it is a man walking down the beach on fire, calm.
About to walk into the beach.
Calm.
Yep.
He's not flailing. He's not freaking out. He's just walking.
Mhm.
And his upper torso's completely engulfed in flames.
Yeah.
And that whole album feels that way. It is an onslaught in this realm of calm.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's absolutely gorgeous. Mortal Coil's very similar
Being
because
calm
it's
in the chaos.
being calm in chaos. Mortal Coil is very similar in the sense of it's this person
Free
falling
falling.
through almost time,
Yep.
space and time. There's a pocket watch right there with him falling. So it's like
Yep.
mortality. You're thinking about your mortality and existential crisis and whatnot, things like that, like
Mm-hmm.
grasping life in general. And that album cover does a great job of capturing that.
Well, that
So-
album cover, it's almost like the person's falling through like falling in water,
Yeah.
right?
It's like a free fall.
And you think of some of the
Or the darkness
themes,
of space.
the themes throughout the song, and like what is it, Martyr?
That's off Death of Me. The Death of Me.
I'm trying to think. What song
Dude,
was on that?
Consume just hits me like a freight train in that, because like being consumed by life and your own coming to grips with your own mortality. That's something I struggle with all the time.
Oh, and Somnus Veritas. The slower one off of Mortal
No.
Coil.
Somnus?
In Somnus Veritas, if that's how
Yeah,
you
so
pronounce
some
it.
of
How you
these
pronounce it?
songs, it's almost like drowning,
Yeah.
like this super heavy
Sonder.
feeling of
Sonder.
Sonder.
You
like
listen to
drowning
Sonder,
in
holy
this.
Slow
shit.
decay?
Yes, the slow decay. Yep.
Dude, it's like your own mortality, bro. The mortal coil. Like
Yeah.
that's just relapse. Like there's so many. So that's it. Just circles back to my whole point of album covers have way more impact than what people think. And there's another band that I think does a fucking incredible job with album covers, every single one, and it's Currents. I
Mhm.
know that they look busy, but if you go look at some of their album covers in relation to the song title and some of the records on there, The Place I Feel Safest, it's two dudes standing together and one's holding a knife behind his back. The Death We Seek, their newest one, it is this like warrior marching in hell. Like very little you can see him, and there's just like this big atmosphere of like a dark demonic place. And it just does. And The Death We Seek is a very dark album, very heavy, very blah album. So and that's probably why I am so big on album covers, and I want them to mean something. Don't just fucking put the four dudes standing like this on the fucking album cover,
Yeah.
you know, which
Don't just go out in the woods in the wintertime.
every fucking crapcore album ever. Yeah. Woods in the wintertime. Oh my god.
Actually,
yeah.
keep doing that. That's
That is
why
kinda dope. That's how all those music videos were.
you're
Or it's
creating,
raining.
you're creating
Yeah.
jobs.
Yep.
Okay, the park rangers need to be able to
Yeah.
have a reason to exist, and helping guide them to safety is one of their probably key components.
So to wrap this up, I just want to say that I'm so fucking juiced out of my mind for this new Polaris album. I think they dropped the perfect single to kind of show us, hey, here's the direction we're going in.
Yep.
You're gonna know it's Polaris, but you're not gonna know what's coming next. And they're still young in their career, man. They've only been, commercially productive for, since 2016, roughly, I think.
2017 was Mortal Coil.
Yeah, 2016, or maybe it was 2015 was Dichotomy. And then The Guilt and the Grief, the EP, was 16, I believe. So they're still young in this thing, and just, I mean, they're not even in their prime yet, I don't think.
Whew.
And that's hard.
I think they're entering their prime.
Yeah, that's hard to wrap your head around, considering the gold that they've poured forth.
Think
from-
about it.
Changed my fucking life.
Yeah,
If this album delivers the way that we hope it does,
That's 3 straight.
that's 3 straight banger ass albums.
It will beat the fuck out of Currents.
And if
And
they
that's no
keep
slight
up
to
their
Currents.
touring schedule that they do,
Which is
Look the
vicious.
fuck
it is
out.
vicious.
Look out.
Dude, they are going to blow the fuck.
Yeah, I mean,
up.
yeah, they'll take over. I mean, they're on the verge of a
I'm almost
metal.
glad they haven't blown the fuck up yet because
we can
they're
see
because
it.
of
their
the
third
monumental
album-
We can
takeover
watch
it
it
could
and
be.
see
if they had
it.
already blown up, their third album would probably be lazy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think, and that's something that scares me. I'm almost afraid if they blow up this album, their next album might be slightly disappointing.
Something
Which
about
is
those
something that
guys, I
happens.
just feel like they have too much in them.
It almost
to
feels
do
like
that.
it's a stretch to say that it could, they could have a letdown. But I mean, any band is capable of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, all it takes is one miss.
I think it
We
would.
loved all
I
their
don't
remains.
think it would be. It would be a bad album. I
We never
think it
thought
would
they could
be.
come down.
I think
It
it
just
would be
wouldn't be
kind of like the
banger after banger after
conversation. I
banger
think it'd be
after
like
banger.
the conversation we had earlier, where
Yeah.
it was like, is it bad in relation to other Polaris, or is
Right.
it bad in relation to everything else?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think after they blow up, they might have an album that's kind of bad compared to their other stuff.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that worries me.
So, my parting thoughts. Polaris changed my life.
Same.
They filled a gap for me in music very similar to an All That Remains that did years ago. Very similar to Metallica did for me years ago, and so many other bands. But and maybe it's just because of present time, and I know we've said it several times, but to me, there's nobody else like them.
Mm-mm.
Nobody. And I'm so fucking stoked for this new album.
Me too. Well, guys, I think we've probably ran a little longer than what we wanted to for a traditional bonus content episode. So we'll have some after show discussions about what to do with this one, because this was a special one.
This is a good one.
And I want to thank each and every one of you for sticking with us here, especially our folks on Patreon. Thank you, guys. As a reminder, to go follow all of our socials at TSIS Podcast. Like, comment, rate, review. Tell us we fucking suck. Tell us we're dickheads. I don't care. Any interaction
Bring
is
it.
good interaction. So, again, appreciate each and every one of you guys and gals for tuning in and listening each and every time we put something out. We appreciate y'all. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be able to keep doing this. So, thank you. And until next time, we are the Screaming Idiots.
Peace, love, dove.